Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel.
Chris Kapsner of Sheridan is a Democratic candidate in the 23rd Senate District. Chris, welcome to WisconsinEye.
Yeah, thank you for having me here, Steve.
As a physician, you consider healthcare a top issue, the top issue? Where does it rank?
Yeah, I would say it ranks in the top two. And my platform is really about healthy communities and healthy democracy. And healthcare is certainly a fundamental building block for our healthy communities. So I look at healthcare, education, good roads, basic infrastructure, clean air, clean water. Those are all the building blocks that are going to help all of us and help keep our communities vibrant and productive.
So let's bore in on healthcare a little bit.
Sure.
How do we protect and expand healthcare in rural Wisconsin?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a big challenge. But this administration chose not to expand Medicaid, which critically hurt rural communities in particular. So there are probably 1,000 per county, 1,000 people were not insured because of it. And so again, as an ER doctor, what I see happening is instead of going to your clinic, getting your blood pressure taken care of, diabetes taken care of, smoking cessation, all those common sense things to keep you healthy, you come to me when your blood pressure is 200 over 100 and you're having a stroke, a heart attack, kidney failure, all those things that we could have prevented in a much more cost-effective and a rational manner.
Does state government have a role in recruiting and retaining doctors, nurses, and other medical professionals?
Well, they have a role in supporting common sense policies that are going to attract and retain talent. They have a role in helping us with healthcare that is underfunded and poorly reimbursed. And really where I'm going is mental health and addiction services. I think there is certainly a role where the state can come together and really what I would look for is all the systems within the district, these big systems like Marshfield, Mayo, come together and say, how do we solve this in a rational manner? And the state should help support that. And the other good news is we have technology, and we really need to embrace technology that can help get care into any part of the state, especially our rural communities. So I love the idea of telemedicine, and we can take expertise that may be in Madison and project that into almost any community to help with those things like mental health and addiction and any other need we see.
State government and Delta Dental have a plan by which they subsidize some dental clinics in these medically underserved areas. Yep. How important is that, and should that remain a priority in the next Medicaid budget?
Yeah, absolutely. So all these things like your dental health, your core healthcare needs should be supported. And what we all see is that everything is interconnected, right? So if your teeth are bad, well, it impacts a lot of other things. And let me shift to like clean water. We need clean water, right? If our water is polluted, that causes a host of other problems. So I want all of us to look at that our needs. We need a comprehensive plan to look at the entire community and the person who deserves, again, basic health care, basic dental needs.
You also listed as as an important campaign theme transportation. How would you break the impasse in the Capitol over how to pay for highways, bridges, and maintenance?
Yeah, well, what I've seen happen over the last 4 to 8 years is instead of looking the problem right in the eye and saying, hey, we need to make some tough decisions, and we need to work together, whether you're Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter, because this is fundamental to any community. We need decent roads. It promotes safety, it promotes the economy. So we have choices to make. So one choice is we ignore the roads. And guess what happens? It's still a cost, right? So the average Wisconsin driver spends $637 in car repairs because of our bad roads. A much more rational way of going about it is finding some sustainable way of keeping our roads and bridges intact. So what's often talked about is a gas tax. It's reasonable. Everything should be looked at, okay? But we can do incremental changes that help all of us and not just continue to ignore it, and or worse, shift the burden onto our communities instead of the state doing its job. You know, the county boards have to pay for all this. And now they're, putting all this on their credit card in the form of a bond, and now we have increased debt. Okay, none of this makes sense. So again, I'm looking for rational solutions that will come up with a sustainable way of helping all our transportation needs.
So you could vote as a senator to raise the gas tax. What about the idea of tolling, which is being discussed in the Capitol?
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of the things I will tell you, I'm open to any potential solution. Let's look at the evidence. Let's look at best practice. Let's look at what other states who are doing it well, okay? When I first look at tolls, I'm not enthusiastic about it, but I'm open to it. Again, I need to see the evidence, I need to see the cost, I need to see the unintended consequences of such an action.
You mentioned some of the issues, including road funding, that local governments deal with. Local governments have had to live with levy limits for 13, 15 years. Is it time to get rid of those limits, ease them back, or keep them in place?
I love the idea of local control. And when I'm out in the district, I hear that a lot. Hey, we know what's best for our community. We know what's best for our town, our county. So that local expertise, they should be able to prioritize what's best for their town, their county, and Madison shouldn't be getting in the way of that as long as it's rational and supporting the common good, the needs of that county.
Wisconsin is spending up to $100 million in school safety grants. Is that enough, or do we need to change gun laws?
Yeah, guns are a big discussion within the district. And I was knocking on doors, and I walk up to a house, and I notice his car has NRA stickers on it, AR rifle stickers, and he was up on his roof, and I introduced myself, and he came down, and we had a great conversation. He said, you know what, I'm a one-issue voter. And he pointed to his arm, and there was an NRA tattoo. I said, hey, that's fine, but I'm a gun owner, and we talked about how many guns we had, which we both had a lot, and we talked about rational gun laws. And I looked at him and said, just like you, we want every gun owner to be safe, know how to use their guns, and not hurt themselves or anyone else. And he said, yeah, that makes sense. And I looked at him and said, do I have your vote? He said, absolutely. The point I'm trying to make is that let's come up with rational gun laws. Let's not turn our schools into prisons. Let's not add burden to the teachers. They shouldn't be armed. They don't need that burden on them. Their job is to teach. And I'm a big proponent of looking at root cause. We need to do root cause analysis. If you look at Columbine, there's kind of a similar psychological pathway where kids are being bullied, they're loners, and we really need to get in early and help these kids before they do something awful. So we need to educate parents, teachers, and we need, again, I get back to a healthy community with mental health services. We need that.
The current state budget boosts state aid for our K-12 public schools. How well funded are they? Do we need another similar big increase in the next state budget? What are you hearing from the residents of the 23rd?
Yeah, so again, I'm a huge proponent of education. This is jet fuel to our success. So we need world-class, education that starts pre-K, goes all the way to the day you retire. So I don't care if it's technical colleges, the UW system needs to be supported. We're still underfunding, okay? And again, this is something that is bedrock to our success. This is going to create opportunity, and that's what we all want. We want opportunity with good jobs, livable wage, and education is fundamental to that goal. So yes, we need to support it and fund it more.
If it needed more money, have you thought about any changes in the tax structure to raise that money?
Yeah, so what has happened over the last 48 years, tax cut, tax cut, tax cut, tax cut. And those tax cuts really benefit large corporations and the very wealthy. And I understand that there's no free lunch, but with these tax cuts, there's not going to be lunch for anyone, okay? And so we need to, instead of shifting the burden onto our communities, so school boards now are going out to raise money for funds that should have been provided by the state. Somehow we found $3 to $4.5 billion to invest in a foreign corporation called Foxconn. That is just wrong and incompetent.
The voucher program, the choice program, has been expanding. Started out in Milwaukee 30 years ago, then Racine, now statewide. Expand further. What's your thoughts on choice voucher?
Yeah, I garner a lot of wisdom when I go out and meet people in the community. So I was in Colfax, Gary Steen, he's the mayor of Colfax, and he said, why are we doing vouchers? We can't fund one system. How are we supposed to fund another? And it's just unfair, okay? I mean, I'm a product of Catholic schools and public schools. I see the benefit of both. But my parents chose to send me to Catholic school. They didn't expect the state to fund that. So until, public education is a cornerstone to our communities, it's a cornerstone to our economic success, and it's a cornerstone to our democracy. Public schools need to be the number one priority.
You mentioned your opposition to the Foxconn package of incentives. What about the plan floated in August to give Foxconn-like incentives to a homegrown company like Kimberly-Clark? Also opposed to that? This is public money, and it needs to be spent wisely. So yes, I would much have preferred to have the $3 to $4.5 billion invested in our local communities, local industries that are here, schools, healthcare, roads, clean air, clean water, all those things that make us healthy, and not siphon it all to the southeast corner of the state. So this is just a fundamental example of what is wrong and why we need a change. We shouldn't be on bended knee to a foreign corporation when we should have been taking that money and investing it in our communities. Green Bay Prison and the prison in Waupun built in the 1800s. Big issue in the next budget. Do we need a new state prison? Do we?
We're spending more on prisons and jails than we do on the UW system. So we have to make tough choices. And again, what I want to see happen, instead of putting people in jail, let's look at the root cause. We see a lot of drug-related crime. We see a lot of people going in and out of prisons for drug-related crime. So I want us to focus on, again, I get back to mental health and addiction services, keep people out of jail, keep people healthy, give people opportunity and good jobs, a livable wage. We'll have our crime goes down, our drug addiction goes down, violence goes down, all are better, and we don't need more prisons.
Part of that debate in the Capitol travels with the issue of marijuana. Is it time to legalize either medical or recreational marijuana?
I'm going to keep an open mind, and I will look for the evidence. I want to see the evidence for medicinal marijuana, which I think there is. I think it's worth exploring. When it comes to legalizing marijuana, we're going to have to look closely at what happened in Colorado And there are unintended consequences of it, but it's also could be good for the tax base. So it is worth exploring.
If we legalize recreational marijuana and it did provide revenues, where should those revenues go?
Back to the foundations of our communities: healthcare, education, infrastructure, environmental protections, keep our water clean.
UW system budget, continue the freeze on resident undergrad tuition?
Yeah, I would, student debt is a big issue. And, the average Wisconsin student walks out of college with $30,000 in debt. I want to keep that debt low, but I also want to invest in the UW system, including technical colleges, because it is jet fuel for the state.
Final question, differences between you and your Republican opponent on November 6th?
Yeah, well, there's numerous. But the big one is I'm a doctor, and as a doctor, I've spent my career listening to my patients, advocating for my patients. I will do that for the district. I'm going to listen, and I have the district's back. Also, very importantly, I have real-world experience in healthcare, education, business, and I'm going to bring that expertise to the public sector.
Thank you. Chris Kapsner of Sheridan is a Democratic candidate in the 23rd Senate District. The election is November 6th. Chris, thank you for talking to WisconsinEye.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.
Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel.